So, Honorable Alex Afenyo-Markin, you've heard him there in his own words.
Okay. So let's appreciate language and let's go into language use. He said two things. He said, first, he said he's going ahead to adjourn the House. Then he quoted the standing orders which provides that before he does that, he must consult leadership. Consultation for concurrence, which he quoted. Now, subsequently, he said he consulted leadership and he has decided on his own to proceed to adjourn the House. So he played it safe with his own language to make it difficult for anybody to fault him. So now, let me go ahead and tell you what happened at the pre-sitting meeting.
So before you do that, he has actually published his statement as he's read on his Facebook page, and it's a 6-paragraph statement. So it's the 5th paragraph that mentions a consultation, and he was emphatic. He says, "Honorable members, I have consulted leadership and I am exercising my discretion to suspend the meeting of the House indefinitely." This paragraph comes after the one that he quoted, the standing orders 59-1. So this is as emphatic as he can get, as though he has consulted leadership and now based on that he's proceeding.
Okay, so let me now recount what happened at the pre-sitting meeting. All right. So he invited us for a pre-sitting meeting and said that, one, he is in receipt of the court ruling and that he was going to inform the House. 2, many people have visited his house as a result of what was going on, and he wants to engage in further consultation. So he intends to adjourn the House immediately. I asked him, Mr. Speaker, on what basis would you adjourn the House immediately? What has happened? You've been served with a court process. Why would you want to adjourn the House immediately? He could not answer me. So I just want to respond to that aspect of his statement that he has consulted. The ordinary meaning of consultation would mean that, for me, with the greatest respect and in all modesty, is to the effect that you've engaged another party for his input to enable you arrive at this decision. What he did was to inform us that this is the decision he's taking. Two, the issue of the sitting on the right of Mr. Speaker. I drew his attention that our colleagues have taken our seat. He said that as for the sitting in Parliament, it is the responsibility of the clerk. So he is not responsible for the sitting in Parliament. It is the clerk. I subsequently consulted the clerk that, are you the one who changed our name tax? He said no. As far as he is concerned, we remain the majority. So our colleagues forcefully came to occupy our seat. At that point, when he was prevailing on the NDC side to go back to their seat, they were all loud on him. And what I realized, and with the greatest respect, Mr. Speaker has now, it's like when the NDC talks, then he takes a back step because he cannot take a decision. And I was not alone. He's looking at his body language as if in one breath he's sort of scared of somebody, he's not scared of somebody, and all. But let's put that aside. Dr. Atuforsen, when he realized that Speaker wanted them to go back to their seats, then came out to say that, and I'm quoting him, that Mr. Speaker made an announcement, and then based on his announcement, they have also taken our seats. And that until he makes that announcement, that the court ruling has overtaken his earlier decision, they will not move. And that was corroborated by Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, the deputy whip, who also had the stand to speak, and he said, okay, they are there because Mr. Speaker announced that some seats have some people have vacated their seat and all. So my point was this, Mr. Speaker, be bold and tell them that what they are doing is wrong. He played around it, and I of course, yesterday, we had all indications from the NDC minority that today, Mr. Speaker will come and adjourn the House immediately. They were sharing this on their platforms. Some of the moderates among them who disagreed with the Hawks on their side were telling us that this is the plan. And it was a known fact. So I was not surprised when today they came with a plan. They choreographed it. But my joy is that Mr. Speaker could not run away from the authority of the court. That is my joy this day. All my happiness emanates from the fact that upon all the noise from the NDC and upon all the political conspiracy, they acknowledge the authority of the court. And for me, that is what we needed for the good of democracy. Now let's go back to what Mr. Speaker did on the House floor. As a result of his posture, I realized that he wasn't ready to boldly tell the NDC guys to go. So I said, look, we would walk out. I told him respectfully, Mr. Speaker, if they wouldn't want to move for you to read your speech, to read the court process to us, then we'll go and sit in our offices and wait for you. When you are done, and now you inform them that the court has vacated your orders, they will now move, because according to them, they will wait for that formal communication before they move. If they move, we'll come in. That's what I told him. Then he came to the floor. First was prayer, national anthem, and he quickly swept roll call. He said he was varying the order of business. He varied the order of business and then read the formal communication, which is the ruling he has received from the Supreme Court. Instead of reading the details of the ruling and announcing to the House that he is yielding to the authority of the court, he rather read the suit, made reference to my application, and said the court has ruled, and suddenly jumped into a quorum. For me, that quorum issue he raised was completely unnecessary, irrelevant, immaterial to the issue before us. It was part of the scheme. Because if you want to talk about quorum, you must first do roll call. So he deliberately avoided the roll call, and you need to understand parliamentary procedure to know the tricks he was up to and the mischief. If you don't know parliamentary procedure, he will confuse you, and he succeeded in confusing many people, and now people are talking about quorum because he wanted to hold on to something. But Mr. Speaker knows that for those of us who pay attention to the procedure, the only way he could have raised quorum was to have done roll call. So he realized that when he came back, he could not even do the roll call. Then he jumped into correction of vote and proceedings to allow the NDC to do their mischief again, and then he proceeded to adjourn Sunday. Anyway, that is the politics he's playing. We know that their game plan is aiding the NDC not to allow Parliament to operate, to enable government undertake major government business before we get into the election. That's their game plan. We knew about this. The moderates among them kept telling us, and it's exactly what they've done. It started before the opening of Parliament. During the recall, we had signals that they were not ready to do any government business, and that's exactly what they're doing. They don't want Parliament to function. You know what? God willing, tomorrow, the majority caucus will trigger a recall of Parliament. We will not allow Mr. Speaker to ambush us. And all these things that Mr. Speaker is doing, he as the elder statesman that we know him to be should know that he's hurting democracy. We know him to be an NDC member, but to deliberately act in such a manner, thinking that you give political advantage to to your party so that government business will stop and frustrate the economy. There's so much to be desired. But it's okay. We would use the law to get what we want. So we are going to recall Parliament, and then we'll see what he would do. Whether he would respect it to recall Parliament or not, we'll leave it to him. But there is no such controversy that should trigger adjournment sine die. You have made your ruling. A court has questioned your authority and ordered you to do A, B, C, D. All you need to do as a Democrat is authority of the court in full. Don't just acknowledge it and find another way to say, "Oh, people have been consulting you and you think there should be some discussions, so you are adjourning sine die." As if you are the House. You are not Parliament. With the greatest respect and in all modesty, Mr. Speaker is not Parliament. Mr. Speaker is not Parliament. All this waste will come, like the recall. Government released 65 million to Parliament. When we did the recall, all outstanding goods and services, travel expenses, this, that, the government released 65 million cedis to Parliament. We came in, they frustrated as if, and sometimes the Speaker will be pretending as if it's on the side of the law, and then he would acquiesce with the NDC agenda, and we see it. We are not children. We are adults. We know. We can see with our eyes the game plan. Anytime we meet Mr. Speaker, we would have a final meeting with the NDC before he comes. But we've not been bothered. This whole drama. Harun Idrisu has filed a petition talking about the colleagues who are filed as independent candidates and all. Immediately Haruna filed this process. They said, "Oh, Haruna wants to favor the MPP. Haruna is in bed with us." So he filed it because that would call for a process. Because the Haruna application will require that a committee should be set up to look into it and bring a report. So suddenly, upon consultation, then after Dr. Forson comes in with a statement under Order 93, then a statement now metamorphoses into a motion, which results in a ruling for the first time in the history of this country that the Speaker is ruling on a statement when Order 93.6 of our rules provides that when there's a statement and members make comment on this statement, depending on the gravity of it, Mr. Speaker will refer the entire statement and all the comments to a committee.
Okay.
And even propose possible legislation to that effect.
Honorable question.
Yes, please go ahead.
At the birth of this parliament, you had this whole issue about who sits where. I remember how you were forced to sit on the minority side. But when the dust settled, the Speaker ruled that you are the majority and you took the seats that were rightfully yours. Why didn't you deploy the same tactics today? Come to the chamber, sit wherever you can sit, because based on my understanding, the sitting on the right or left is just an issue developed out of precedent and not necessarily a law in your rule books. If you sat on the left, you would have given the House a working number of people so that you could have conducted business. That way, you could have been on your feet and made the case to the Speaker that ABC was wrong. But it appears your tactics, which was to stay away until the Speaker made the determination for you to assume your seats, you lost in that particular tactics. And if you had come to the chamber, the adjournment we saw may not have happened.
I disagree with you, and I'll explain why I disagree with you. He, as the presiding officer, had the authority to correct the wrong. But he was filled with some fear because he was in cahoots with them. I have my rightful place. You are Speaker. At pre-sitting, I tell you that these gentlemen are sitting on my seat. You are saying that, oh, when it comes to sitting in the chamber, it's administrative. It's the clerk's responsibility. When you now make effort to talk to them, they start raising their voice, and then you hold back. I don't think it's a fair, a balanced Speaker who would want to give a fair ruling for both sides. Two, How do I come and sit on the left of Mr. Speaker? Because it is a mere practice. No. In Parliament, the majority sits on the right and the minority sits on the left. That is Parliament. So I will not sit on his left. When my colleague, if you followed, I don't know whether your cameras captured it, they pulled, Dr. Forson pulled, his people pulled his seat, his table or his desk, whatever, to my side, and then pushed mine back. Who does this? And this is what I expected him to have condemned it, because when we were with him, he said he was watching. He said he was watching everything that was happening in the chamber. So it means he saw everything live. But because they are NDCs and he's aware of the plan, he decides to hold back. You expect me to have a confrontation? No, I won't do that.
Very well. Moving forward, we are receiving information that two of your MPs who had decided to contest as independent MPs, for which reason we've gotten to where we have gotten to, have rescinded that decision to go independent. How much information do you have, and which one can you share with us, please, on this subject?
Well, there's no public statement from my colleagues. We have been engaging, not today. Today, they came to Parliament. They were ready to enter the chamber because, Mr. Speaker, because the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement. Because of the unfortunate incident, they didn't get opportunity to enter the chamber. We had a caucus meeting, and they were present at the caucus meeting. And after the caucus meeting, they visited me in my office, and we had very fruitful discussion. That is what I can say.
We saw nice photos of you and Honorable Kennedy Japon with Cynthia Morrison. Many are reporting that is to mean that she has decided not to go independent again. I was asking if you can confirm that for us.
I am saying that these colleagues who are members of the majority caucus were with me. We had very fruitful discussions.
Have they decided that they will not run as independent MPs again?
I repeat.
Have they told you that they will not run as independent MPs?
These colleagues.
Honorable, I've heard you. Can you answer my question?
These colleagues were in Parliament.
Honorable Efutu Member of Parliament.
Visited me in the office.
Leader.
They had very fruitful discussion.
Leader, why are you repeating yourself? You're being like a bad cassette. It means you will not give me a confirmation.
I mean, we've had a very fruitful discussion as colleagues.
So let's end it here. Thank you so much.
Very well. Very well.
That's Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin there. Let me speak to Honorable Mahama.